Okay, good morning, everyone, to your sixth online class dealing with leases. First off, again, our contact details for FACT 2601, your module leader, Andre Isley and Frank Montgomery. You can reach us at fact2601@unisa.ac.za with all of your technical queries. Please send all your technical queries to this mailbox. We cannot assist you with any administrative matters. So if you have got any queries concerning the module and specifically with the technical module related material details, please address those email addresses to this mailbox. Colleagues, just house rules for leases part 1. There will be a 30 seconds delay when you hear audio. This is due to the internet speed. I will address any questions in the question and answer section after the class, but specifically, this class will be split up in 2 sessions. Part 1 is dealing with leases, specifically low value assets or the recognition exemption. And I will address that just after this session. We've got two parts to cover today, part 1 and part 2 concerning with financial leases. All right, all of the source material that I discuss currently already updated and uploaded on the site, you will find under the online class 6 section in your My Module site for the 2026 students, and for supplementary students, you will find that under your online class section dealing with leases. I believe that is online class 7 as far as I remember. But if you scroll on your My Module site 2025 semester 2 to the bottom of the page where it indicates the online class for leases, all the sessions or all the leases slides as well as the questions discussed are also uploaded, okay, on both of the sites. And obviously, these classes will be made available via our dedicated YouTube channel, okay, where these classes, both of part 1 as well as part 2, will be uploaded after today's session with all of the material under your My Module site. So we have received a lot of queries where we can get those videos. All of these videos are uploaded for easy viewing later on. All right, so specifically for 2026, you will find it under online class 6. This is where you have also received the link to the class as well as in announcements. Now, colleagues, before I carry forth with today's session, let me just say something about the elective assessment 3. Colleagues, not everyone can write assessment 3. It is specifically those students that miss assessment 2 on the 10th of April due to being either sick or having a valid employer's letter stating the fact that you will miss the April 10th assessment, and or you've got death in your family. Now, colleagues, if you are away for work, you will know this beforehand, already before the 10th, and you need to submit your employer's letter before the 10th of April to the link provided in an announcement. You cannot email that to us. No email submissions will be accepted. Please read the announcements. We keep on receiving letters in the mailbox. Those letters will be ignored. You need to follow the instructions in the announcement. There's a link where you need to complete a form if you want to become eligible to write the elective assessment on the 20th of April. Colleagues, you need to either be away from work and have an employer's letter on your employer's official letterhead signed by your line manager, and that should reach us before the 10th. Or either you need to be, if you are sick on the day or before the 10th, and you can't write, you must get a medical certificate and you need to submit that to us on or before the 13th of April at 8 o'clock. Again, you need to complete the form that is sent to you on the announcement. You guys need to read the announcements on the My Module site. We will not accept any email submissions. Let me make that very clear because we have already received and those are ignored. Or if you have got death in the family, a death certificate needs to be submitted to us by 13th of April at 8 o'clock. We will not accept any letters dated after 8 o'clock on the 13th of April. It's very important that you guys need to read the pertinent information on the My Module site. Colleagues, then you will only become eligible if you did not even attempt assessment 2. You can't even have opened or visited the site if you decided that you cannot write assessment 2, either being away from work or sick or whatsoever. If we see, according to the time location stamp, there's a time stamp. If you visit the site, we can see that you access the site. You will not be eligible even if you do then submit a letter. So we can check whether you've actually accessed that site because it's time stamped. So colleagues, it's critically important that you follow the instructions sent to you via the announcement. Having said that, let's get to today's topic, leases, which are a very instrumental, important topic that you will get examined on the assessment 2, as well as in the examination. Okay, this topic deals only for your perspective from the lessee's perspective, and we do not touch any taxation that you will have to do in your 3rd year of studies. Again, very important, the theory behind leases. How do we interpret, understand the concepts, the principles, before we can apply these principles on application? Now, it's critically important, the theory, that you know and understand the theory behind leases and how do we account for leases, classify them, measure them at year end in your set of financial books. Colleagues, this is a critical aspect in applying leases. And today for part 1, we will be looking at the recognition exemption of low value assets. This is only part 1 and we have got a lot to do today. So we will also be looking at part 2, financial leases, hopefully after an hour. We've spent time on low value assets. All right. So colleagues, what is the bigger picture here? Remember, when we're dealing with leases, there must be a contract containing a lease. All right. That contract containing a lease means that, sorry, let me just get that one off there. Okay, let me try to move this thing. Okay. So colleagues, whenever you get a contract and that contract contains a lease, remember, we are now trying to establish how are we going to recognize a contract that specifically adheres to the conditions for lease recognition in your books for lessees in terms of IFRS 16. So if there's a contract, meaning that there's a right to control the use of an identified asset for a period of time and for consideration, we assume that there is a contract, that this contract contains a lease then immediately, according to IFRS 16, there is no classification issues here. Okay, you must then recognize a right of use asset and recognize a lease liability. There's no classification requirement for leases. If the contract contains a lease, and the answer is yes, in accordance to our rules. Remember, this is basically a summary of the whole standard IFRS 16. There's no classification issue anymore. You must recognize a right of use asset and a lease liability, of which we will get to how you do it, either by recognizing the right of use asset. This is part 2 of our session today. This is part 2. Okay, so when a contract contains a lease, you immediately knows that, okay, there's no classification. I do not have to classify a lease between a short-term lease and a long-term lease or a financial lease. I have to recognize a right of use asset and a lease liability. Of the way that we need to do that, we will come to part 2. I'm just giving you the bigger picture currently. Unless, colleagues, you do not have to recognize a right of use asset and a lease liability, because there are exemptions. Exemptions only applies if the lease term is less than 1 year with no purchase option, or the underlying asset is of low value, done on a lease by lease basis. Then we can account for this lease, for this contract. If it's of low value and of less than 1 year, then we can account for it as a short-term lease. Okay, so this is the big picture. We first need to establish whether the contract contains a lease. We will determine whether you've got the right to control an identified asset. This is where the theory comes in, for a period of time, and you pay a consideration for it. If we can establish that, yes, this contract contains a lease, the standard tells us you cannot classify it between a short-term lease or a financial lease. You must recognize a lease liability and a right of use asset. But unless the standard gives us exemptions, if you can see that this lease is now of low value, that low value, they give us a value of $5,000. Okay, that is what the fair value of the asset is. That value is about $5,000, equivalent to rand value multiplied by 20. So if that asset value is about 100,000 rand, we will also get to this, okay, or less, then we can classify this lease as a short-term lease, and this is how we will account for it under part 1. This is for part 1, colleagues. And either or the lease term is less than 1 year with no purchase option, then we can ignore the right of use asset and recognize the lease liability. We can follow the exemptions. This is just a summary to explain to you how do we treat leases in the lessees, from the lessee's perspective. So this is what we will be doing now, looking at part 1. We will ignore part 2 for now, because now we have classified this lease as a short-term lease because it's of low value. Okay? Okay, colleagues, let me continue. Okay, what is happening here? So, colleagues, the objective is to outline the principles for recognition, measurement, presentation, and disclosures of leases in the lessee's books. Okay, so as I said or indicated, at the inception of any contract between two parties, we need to assess whether the contract is or contains a lease. This is from the onset inspecting a contract. So as per the definition of IFRS 16 leases, a contract contains a lease when the contract conveys the following: the right to control the use of an identified asset. You must be in control, and there must be an identified asset. All right, you need to lease that for a period of time. You need to get the future economic benefits of that asset, and you must have full control of that asset. Look now, we are determining whether a contract contains a lease. This is the definition of how you will determine that. Okay, the definition as per IFRS 16 says that yes, you must have the right to control the use of an identified asset for a period of time in exchange for consideration. There is no classification for leases between an operating and or financial lease as with the previous standard. But for lessees, they need to account for leases in the same way in terms of IFRS 16 recognize an asset and a liability as I indicated in the bigger picture. Unless, colleagues, okay, this is part 2, financial leases. Unless, colleagues, you are in leases of choose the exemption. So if you can choose the exemption only if whether that contract contains a lease, you might choose the according to the full standard of IFRS 16, you might choose the lease exemptions if leases for assets that is for 12 months or less, and leases for which the underlying assets are low value. For example, tablets, personal computers, and small office furniture and items. There shouldn't be any purchase options available. Okay? And the standard gives us a value. That value is $5,000. We will indicate whether the lessee has chose this option in a scenario, not on asset category, but per the lease item. Okay? We then account for these lease payments on a straight line basis, and we will come to an example concerning this. So colleagues, to summarize from the onset, you need to determine whether there is a lease, whether you've got right of control of the identified asset for a period of time in exchange for consideration. If that is the case, according to IFRS 16, you must recognize a right of use asset or a lease liability unless you can make use of the exemptions. How? It must be for less than 12 months, or the asset value must be lower than or equal to $5,000, equivalent to about 100,000 Rand. All right. I will show you an example when we get there. All right. So colleagues, the standard tells us the theoretical aspects to identify this as a lease. There must be an explicitly identified asset in the contract. You must specifically mention in the contract explicitly, or the asset being leased could simply be implied through it being made available to the entity. Assets are not identified if the supplier has substantive right or substitution. What does that mean? That means that if the supplier leases you the asset, okay, and it tells you how, or it can replace that asset with another asset, then you haven't got an identified asset. Okay, although an asset may be specified explicitly or implicitly, it would not be an identified asset if the supplier thereof has the substantive right to substitute it. So, for example, you rent a parking space, okay, and you can park your mobile truck there, but the supplier renting you that parking space says, no, I can during the time of the contract, I can allocate another parking space to you. Then that's substitution rights. Then there's no identified asset. So you must be very careful in identifying whether there is an identified asset and whether the supplier has got any substantive right of substitution. then there should not be a identified asset. Okay, you have got no control over that identified asset because the supplier has got substantive rights to substitute it. Okay, the portions of assets can be identified. An identified asset does not have to be the entire asset. Instead, it could be just a portion of an asset if the portion of the asset is physically distinct. However, if the asset is described as being a portion of an asset capacity, this can be an identified asset only if this capacity portion is either physically distinct or represents substantially all of the asset's capacity. I know this is a mouthful, but there must be an identified asset, colleagues. That specific details must apply. For example, the square meter, the address, all relevant details must be there to be identified asset. Okay? This would also mean that the customer should have exclusive use. You as the lessee must have exclusive use, okay? Either to sublease it or receive the future economic benefits from the asset. So there should not be a limitation of what you can do with the identified asset. This is how we determine whether there is a right of control over the identified asset. All right? You will have the right to use that asset for a period of time, for a specific period of time, and you pay a consideration for it. Now, colleagues, in your material, there is a diagram how you can determine whether there is an identified asset and whether the contract contains a lease. I would suggest that you go through the steps of how you can determine and make this your own so that you know that whether a contract contains a lease or not. This is given in your material 7.3.1 just to familiarize yourself of how you can identify that this contract contains a lease. Because from a theoretical perspective, we can sketch you a scenario where you need to go through the steps to come to a conclusion, sorry, whether this contract contains a lease. So we can ask of you, please identify whether this contract contains a lease, and then how will you recognize upon initial measurement and subsequent measurement the lease according to IFRS 16 leases. So it's important that you understand the theoretical aspects of whether the contract contains a lease or not. I cannot go through this now. You need to make time to visit this and identify whether a contract contains a lease according to this diagram. All right. Let's do an example of capacity portions, okay, because this is a more technical aspect. Okay, for example, capacity portions identified assets. Lubricants enters into a contract with Zastron, the lessor, in terms of which Zastron will supply a certain quantity of oil each day to lubricants. The contract stipulates that the supply of oil will be delivered to lubricants using Zastron's oil pipeline. So, in terms of the contract, the quantity of the oil to be delivered on a daily basis constitute 20% of the capacity of the oil pipeline. Explains whether there is an identified asset. Okay? So, how do we deal with that? The contract explicitly identifies the pipeline that they will be used to deliver oil to lubricants. However, the delivery volumes required by lubricants are such that only 20% of the pipeline capacity will be used. Thus, the asset to be used is actually a capacity portion rather than a physical distinct asset. Since we are dealing with the capacity portion, we must analyze whether the capacity portion is physically distinct, or if not, whether it represents substantially all of the asset's capacity. Can you see here the two requirements? Whether it's physically distinct, or if not, whether it represents substantially all of the asset's capacity. Okay, although the actual pipeline is physically distinct, you can see that that is where the oil needs to flow through. The 20% capacity requirement does not represent a physically distinct portion of the pipeline. All right. Thus, since the capacity portion of the asset is not physically distinct, we consider whether the capacity reflects substantially all of the capacities of the pipeline. In this case, we are told the portion that will be used represents only 20% of the total capacity, and thus we conclude that the capacity portion does not reflect substantially all of the capacity of the pipeline. Okay? Therefore, there is no identified asset because we are dealing with a capacity portion that is neither physically distinct nor representative of substantially all of the capacity of the asset. Okay? So, colleagues, this is how you will need to digest through the information to determine whether there is in fact an actual contract and how you will then recognize the contract. So we can give you a scenario according to this capacity portion identified asset determination, and then you need to determine whether there is a physical distinction of the identified physical asset, and or whether you need to work whether does it represent the physical substantial portion, and whether you substantially use all of the asset capacity. Now, colleagues, I cannot explain this in a simpler manner because this is one of the capacity portions constraints method. You can go through this in your own time. I want to get to the more detailed part of how do we account for short-term leases. But this is the thought process of how you will go through the information and digest through the theoretical aspects of the determining whether the contract contains a lease or not. Okay, so do we have the right to control the use of the identified asset? The lessee has the right to control the use of the identified asset if during the period of use the lessee has the right to obtain substantially all the economic benefits from the use of the asset and direct the use of it. So you must be able that when you use that asset, you need to obtain substantially all of the economic benefits of the assets, meaning that when you use that asset, you will obtain the economic benefit and direct the use of it. Your lessor cannot tell you or direct you how you are supposed to use the identified asset. The entity, the customer, has the right if, okay, you can decide how and for what purpose the asset is used. You cannot decide this because the how and what for is predetermined, but it can operate the asset. Or you cannot decide that because how it is predetermined, or the entity designed the asset and it is the reason why and the how or what it's not predetermined. So basically, only colleagues, this only means, okay, that as per the table, the diagram, you must be able to use that identified asset, obtain the full economic benefits from the asset, and you must direct the full use of the asset over the period of time. Your lessor cannot tell you how to do that. Okay? Sorry. Now let's just look at lease components. I just want to see something. Before we get to the example on lease components. Colleagues, sometimes within a lease, you must separate lease components in a contract. So a contract, let me do the example first and then we come to the theory. Sometimes within a lease contract, there are two distinct issues with regards to non-lease components. So this is why I've got the slide before the explanation. It will make more sense to you. Okay, so the lease, IFRS 16 identifies that when there are lease components with a lease with non-lease components, you need to separate the two from one. Okay, and there are specific identification methods to do this. But let's work through this example when we will come to the theoretical aspects of this. Let's just follow me through this example. Allocation of consideration to lease and non-lease components. Okay. Tembi entered into a lease contract in terms of it will lease a bus. That's an identified asset. Okay, the contract is a lease in terms of IFRS 16, so this immediately tells us that there is a lease in terms of this contract. The total consideration payable under the contract is 200,000 Rand per annum for 3 years. So immediately we know that this is not of low value because this contract is for 200,000 Rand. Okay. Tembi determines that the contract consists of two separate components, namely the lease of the bus, that's the identified asset, whereas the lessee will have the direct use of this bus for a consideration and for a period of time of 3 years, and a maintenance of the bus. This is a non-lease component. Okay, this is a non-lease component, and the lease asset is the identified bus. So according to the accounting policy of Tembi lease components and non-lease components should be separated. Tembi established that similar maintenance services are provided by third parties at 25,000 per year, and the relative standalone rental amount for a similar bus is 180,000 per month, per annum. The annual consideration of 200,000 therefore will be allocated as follows. Okay, so how do we allocate the annual consideration between the lease component and the non-lease component? Because we are leasing under the contract a bus for 3-year period, but it consists of a lease and a non-lease component, the maintenance service. So 200,000 Rand is the total for this lease contract, is the consideration for the lease contract. But it consists of an identified asset, which is a bus, and a non-lease component, which is a maintenance service, which accounts for 180,000, sorry, and that's for the bus, but 25,000 is for the maintenance services, which is your non-lease component. So we need to split this 200,000 Rand between the lease component and the non-lease component. We gave you the fair value consideration of 25,000 for the maintenance service and 180,000 for the bus. So 180 plus 25,000 gives you 205,000 Rand. So out of 180 divided by 205 times 200,000 Rand is allocated to the bus. This is how we will split the separation of lease components in a contract. We will give you the consideration for the total lease contract is 200,000. We tell you there is an identified asset, which is the bus. This is a lease in terms of IFRS 16. Okay, but there's also a maintenance service. Maintenance service is a non-lease component, but the consideration is given for the full contract. But the fair value of similar maintenance service is 25,000 Rand, and the relative standalone rental amount for similar bus is 180. Okay, 180 plus 25 is 205. 180 divided by 205 for the fraction portion for the bus times the 200,000 of the full contract lease consideration gives you then 175,000 Rand for the bus and the remainder of the 200,000 is for the maintenance service. Okay, colleagues, the right to use the bus is a lease component. It is right to use an asset. The right to maintenance is a non-lease component and does not represent the right to use the asset. Okay, the consideration is allocated based on the relative standalone price per lease component and the aggregate standalone price for the non-lease component. The consideration allocated to the bus is the lease component, and the consideration allocated to the maintenance is a non-lease component, which is expensed, okay, to your profit and loss account. This is an explanation of the separating lease and non-lease components according to your IFRS 16 standard. Now let's look at the theory. The explanation of the example is applying the theory to the lease and non-lease components. So if a contract might consist of a combination of lease components or a combination of lease and non-lease components, the standard tells us that a separate lease component is a right to use an underlying asset that meets certain criteria. The lessee can benefit from the assets on its own or without readily available resources, and the asset is not highly dependent on, interrelated with other assets in the contract. What is the step one? Please determine and identify each lease component. If a contract involves the lease of a number of underlying assets, we would identify the right to use each asset as a separate lease component if both of the following criteria is met. Okay, you must be able to identify that the lessee can benefit from the asset on its own, and the asset is not highly dependent or interrelated with other assets in the contract. Okay, so that is the allocation of the separating of lease components in a contract. Excuse me. So how do we do that in step 2? We allocate the consideration to each component of the contract. Okay, if a contract contains multiple components with at least one lease component, the lease components or it contains a lease component and non-lease components, we must allocate the consideration of each of these components. This allocation is done on the basis of the relative standalone price of each lease component, as we've seen on the bus scenario, and the aggregate standalone price of the non-lease components. This is exactly what we've done in this scenario. Okay, the consideration for the maintenance service, which is the non-lease component, is 25,000, and the aggregate lease components of the consideration for the bus is 180,000. This is what we've done. Okay, therefore, the standalone price are based on the price that the lessor would charge the lessee if it supplied that component on a separate basis. The portion of the consideration that is allocated to each lease component will be accounted for in terms of IFRS 16, and the portion allocated to each of non-lease component in terms of that relevant standard. So basically all of this is saying that when you separate the lease component from the non-lease component, okay, you can only do that by applying the consideration between the fair value of the assets given, the asset being the identified asset for the bus, which is 200,000, okay, 180 for the bus and 25. You add that together to get 205. Then you take the bus fair value divided by the aggregated amount for both lease and non-lease components and multiplied by the consideration for the contract. Then this is allocated to the lease for the bus, and the other part is then expensed according to your normal standards. Okay, this is in accordance with IFRS 16, and this is in accordance with the maintenance services in terms of IFRS 18, your normal expensed amount, okay, for lease and non-lease components. That is all that this is saying. So a contract, note that the lessee does not elect the practical expedient. We will come to this now. Okay, so the contract, when there's more than one lease component, we must account for each lease component separately. This is just as what we have done now. You separate the two, okay? And the separation is compulsory. So what I've shown you now between lease components and non-lease components, the standard tells us that you must split this lease components and you need to treat them separately unless the lessee chooses to elect the practical expedient. Now, the contract non-lease components recommended to account for it separately unless choose practical expedient only means that it does not have to separate it from lease components. You can see it as a single lease component. Okay, there's an exemption if he does not see it as two, but that's dealt with in a lease by lease individual basis as per the accounting policy of the lessee. Okay, so this, colleagues, is just for you to note that when we deal with the separation of lease contracts, this is what you need to know how to split them according to the standard. Okay, this is just to identify whether there is a maintenance service together with an identified asset, such as a maintenance service. Okay. Okay, having said that, that is dealing with the lease and non-lease components. We also get the combining of contracts. If we have multiple contracts with one person, we may have to combine them. All right. According to the following criteria, the amount of the consideration payable in terms of one contract could be dependent on the price or performance of another contract. The contracts can only be understood if one considers them together as a package and they are negotiated as a package. IFRS 16 defines the lease term as the non-cancelable period for which the lessee has the right to use the underlying asset, together with periods covered by the option to extend the lease if the lease is reasonably certain to exercise that option, or terminate the lease if the lessee is reasonably certain not to exercise that option. The commencement date of the lessee is the date on which the lessor makes an underlying asset available for use by the lessee. So, colleagues, in the combination of contracts, this is what you will be seeing now in an example. For example, if we tell you that you are the lessee and the lessor is providing a small laptop or office furniture to you, and that the contract term states that you will pay 300 Rand for the first 6 months, 500 Rand for the next 2 years, and then there is an option to extend this lease payments for a further 2 years. Then it is a combination of contracts. You need to bring that extension together with the first conditions and see it as one. That is what is meant by combining contracts together. Okay? So it's basically, as you can see it as one package. It will only make sense that you rent office furniture. It is the initial start is for 6 months, then 2 years, and then there is an extension for another 2 years. You bring them together as one contract, and that one contract is seen as the entire package of this office furniture lease contract. And then the commencement date of the lease is important because it is the date on which the lessor makes the underlying asset available to you for use by the lessee. Okay, and that's we will see in a scenario. Okay, but colleagues, again, the summary and flow chart of what we've just discussed. Okay, at first, you need to determine, as per the lease definition, whether a contract or part of a contract conveys the right for use of an asset by you as the lessee for a period of time in exchange for consideration. Is there a contract there must be an identified asset explicitly or implicitly. Okay? There must be an asset. That asset should not have substantive right or substitution rights. If it does, then there is no lease. Okay, so first off, you must determine whether the contract contains a lease by how. Okay, you must have the full economic benefit, the right of use of the asset for a period of time in exchange for consideration. There should not be substantive substitution rights, and the portion of the asset should not reflect a capacity constraints. It should be the physical, all distinct portion of the asset. And if you have control of the use of the asset through the period of use, okay, you should obtain all the economic benefits. And you must direct the use of the asset and through the period of use, then there is a lease. Otherwise, there is no lease. Okay, so it's important to understand the theoretical aspects of what I have just shown you through all the slides that we've gone through. And remember, colleagues, I've already uploaded these slides on for the supplementary students under 2025 semester 2 site, as well as under online class 6 for the 2026 students. Okay, we will be coming now to what is determining when we deal with the part 1 low value assets. This is just to indicate to you the flow chart of how we decide whether there's a contract. Once we've decided that yes, there is a contract, immediately we say there's no classification. You must identify a right of use asset and a lease liability. That is part 2 of our session today. Unless the following is determined. If a contract contains a lease, the lessee may choose not to apply the full standard of IFRS 16, the right of use asset and a liability. Remember now that we've done the theory, we've identified, yes, this contract contains a lease. And that identified asset, for example, a office furniture, okay, there is an asset. You must identify, you must classify this and recognize a right of use asset and a lease liability. The how we will discuss in part 2. But if you do not need to apply the full standard of IFRS 16, if leases for assets that is for 12 months or less, and leases for which the underlying assets are of low value, okay? For example, tablets, personal computers, small office furniture and items, there should not be any purchase options. Okay, so if there is of low value, according to IFRS 16, the standard tells us that low value is $5,000. We will indicate whether the lessee has chose this option in a scenario, or we can sketch a scenario and then ask of you to classify whether they can identify this as low value or not. Okay, if then there's no asset category and the lease item, and then we account for the lease payments on a straight line basis, of which I will show you an example. But how do we deal with this $5,000? How are we certain to deal with this? Okay, let's look. We can only approach this $5,000 in the following way. The benchmark is approximately $5,000, which equivalent to South African exchange rand, 20 rand per dollar. It works out to 100,000 rand, of which refers to the value of the underlying asset when new. So if we give you an asset, for example, printing machine, okay, and we sketch a scenario for you that you rent this underlying asset value for certain value. I will show you this in an example, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. This 100,000 rand is not based on the annual lease payments or the total payments over the entire lease period. But the asset value when new, this assessment is based on the absolute value of the asset, as if it were brand new, regardless of the actual age and the condition of the start of the lease. Okay, so we are trying to explain how will you determine or how will you interpret the $5,000 benchmark. Okay, this exemption is an absolute test. It applies even if the total value of such leases is material to the entity. The lease by lease basis, you can choose to apply this exemption for each lease individually, and the independence of asset, the asset must not be highly dependent or highly interrelated with other assets, e.g. single component of a larger interrelated system might not qualify. Still, let's look at an examples. Examples of low-value assets includes personal computers and tablets, telephones and mobile devices, small items of furniture items. A lease that contains a purchase option or a sublease generally does not qualify for the low-value asset exemption. Okay, so we should not sketch you a scenario where we give you and tell you that there is a purchase option available. Then this should not classify as low-value assets. But let's just for an example give you the following scenario. If, for example, the lease contains a printing machine and the conditions are as such, the contract terms of this printing machine is the following. The initial payment consists of 34,000 Rand. Okay, monthly payments for first 6 months is 12,000 Rand per month. Okay, that accounts already for 72,000 for the first 6 months. Monthly payments thereafter of 8,000 for the next 30 months equals to 240,000 Rand. Okay, the total payment strongly suggests that the market value of this specific printing machine when new is significantly higher than 100K and that $5,000 benchmark. So can you see that if we sketch you this scenario of a lease containing a printing machine, okay, and you identify, oh, if I add all of this payments over the term of the contract, it looks like it's originally more than the benchmark, because this then exclude the low value assets. Remember, a printing machine can be a very small machine on your desk. This printing machine looks like a very advanced, high value printing machine. Okay, so therefore, colleagues, while IFRS 16 lists individual printers as examples of low value assets, this usually refers to small desktop printers. Okay, a machine requiring a 34,000 deposit and 12,000 monthly rent is likely a high capacity industrial or commercial printer, which typically costs much more than $5,000 when new. Sorry for that not showing there, but then this cannot be a low value asset. Okay, so this is the distinction of how you will interpret the $5,000 of low value asset. Colleagues, we will look at an example now for low value assets and how you will deal with low value assets, okay, on a lease by lease basis. So you must have a good understanding of the theory and know how to apply it to any given question. Therefore, it's imperative that you work through the theory under lesson tool 7. Colleagues, you need to go through example 1 of an explanation whether that contract contains a lease. It is the thought process of how to determine whether a contract contains a lease or not. Okay, we will be looking at an example now concerning a previous past examination question paper dealing with low value assets, the discussion thereof, as well as the straight line basis when you deal with low value assets of leases. All examples in the study material are equally important, and for examination purposes we will always state in a question if an asset is of low value and whether or not the company applies the recognition exemption to its low value and short-term assets for calculation purposes. But you must still be able to determine on your own whether that $5,000 benchmark is met or not. Okay, it's important that you understand that $5,000 benchmark. Okay, let's quickly look at an example before we come to the other. I gave you just a summary of when you will use prepayments and or accruals. Okay, let me just come to the solution of SONA. Colleagues, this is a typical examination question where we deal with low value assets. Okay, I physically want to show you how we will deal that once you've established that there is a contract in terms of IFRS 16, how do we classify this lease and how we will account for it. Okay, in your discussion, we will always go to the required first so that you can start with your thought process. So if you get your questions, please go to the required first so that this will direct you as to how you need to interpret and start thinking. Okay, so write a memo to the financial manager to discuss the correct accounting treatment of the lease transactions. Lease of the printing machines in the accounting records of SONA for the year end 28th of February 2024. Okay, your discussion should include the classification and measurement for the current financial year, and your discussion should be supported by calculations. 21 marks. Okay, can you see this is a theoretical type of question? How you need to interpret and classify this lease. Remember, in IFRS 16, there is no classification, but you should still go through the thought process that yes, that this entity has applied the recognition exemption. Here we state SONA elects to apply the recognition exemption in respect of low value assets to this lease agreement, and SONA accounts for the lease and non-lease components separately. Okay, let's go and read the scenario. SONA entered into a non-cancelable lease with Office Connect, the lessor, and on 1st of July 2023 to lease a printing machine for the use of the company. The contract is a lease in terms of IFRS 16. The following information is applicable to the lease contract. The initial lease term is 3 years. An initial payment of 2,000 Rand was made. That's like a deposit. Okay. The lease payments are 900 Rand per month for the first 6 months. The lease payments thereafter are 1,000 Rand per month until the end of 3 years. Actual lease payments made by SONA are included in the operating expenses above. SONA has the option to extend this lease term by a further 2 years. You can see this is the combination of contracts we spoke of. Okay, at the commencement of the lease term, SONA is reasonably certain that it will exercise this option to extend the lease by a further 2 years. You notice this now, there's no option to purchase. It's an option to extend. If there was an option to purchase, you cannot apply the low value asset recognition exemptions. Okay, but this is an option to extend, which forms part of the combination of contracts. Colleagues, I'm explaining to you exactly what you need to know for the upcoming examination and assessments. Okay, this is what you will be able to do, and how will you need to classify, calculate, measure, and recognize leases. Okay, so colleagues, there we get 10% of every lease payments goes towards covering the maintenance costs incurred and is to be paid by the lessor. Colleagues, this is a non-lease component of which we will separate according to our contract, lease contract, and I will show you how we will deal with this. Okay, so colleagues, SONA elected to apply the recognition exemption in respect of low value assets. Now we need to go and determine and discuss the classification and measurement of current financial year. So now that we've determined the contract terms, let's go and look at the solution. Okay, the correct accounting treatment. So it asks of us, you need to write a memo. I now left out the memo, but you should address it in a memo purpose from the accountant to the financial manager on this date. And we are stating the classification of the and measurement for the current financial year. That's how you draft a memorandum. Okay, so let's look at this. Correct accounting treatment of lease. A contract will be accounted for in terms of IFRS 16 if it meets the definition of a lease. As per the given information, the contract between SONA, now we begin applying the information to the solution. Okay? Office Connect meets the criteria to be classified as a lease in terms of IFRS 16. That's given. SONA choose to apply the recognition exemption and therefore will not recognize a right of use asset and a lease liability, but will expense the lease installments on a straight line basis. Okay, can you see that we are applying the standard to the question? We are stating the fact because SONA chose to elect the recognition exemption, he does not have to use he does not have to recognize a right of use asset and a lease liability, what of which is part 2 today's session. Okay, but we can apply the recognition exemption and we need to use the lease payments will be expensed over the lease term using the straight line basis. Okay, whilst bank is credited with the actual lease payments, that's the cash flow amount. Okay, remember the payments that you made is the physical cash flow payments. That's the cash flow amount made during the year, and any difference between the lease expense and the actual lease payments will be recognized as a lease payable or a prepaid asset. And we will come to that. In order to calculate the lease expense, an entity must determine the lease payments, lease term, and whether any non-lease components are included in the contract. This is what we've seen when we went through the theory. Okay, the standard tells us that, how we need to do that. Okay, the lease payments will include fixed payments made by a lessee for the right to use an underlying asset. If a lease contract includes non-lease components, any non-lease components should be accounted for separately. I've given you this in the theoretical aspects of the slides and should not be included in the calculation of the lease payments. So you need to take it out. But colleagues, this is what we've discussed during the theoretical aspects of the slides. Now we are practically applying the theory to the question. The lease term starts on the commencement date, which is the date that the leased asset is made available to the lessee as per the standard. If a lessee has the option to extend the lease term, the extension period will be included in the lease term if the lessee is reasonably certain that he will choose to extend the lease as per the combination of contracts. Okay, we've also seen this in the theory. Okay, SONA signed a 3-year contract with Office Connect to lease a printing machine with the option to extend it for another 2 years. It's given in the scenario. At the start of the lease, SONA is reasonably certain that it will exercise the option to extend the lease and therefore it should combine them. Okay, therefore the lease period will be the original period of 3 years plus the possible extension of 2 years. The total lease term is then equal to 5 years. Can you see how we apply the theory to the question? Okay, so we brought them all together. We've got the non-lease components, the maintenance service, which we will handle separately. We combined the extension of the option, the extension period. We bring them together, the combination of contracts. How will we do this? SONA has agreed to make an initial payment of 2,000 Rand with lease payments of 900 Rand per month for the first 6 months. So we are stating the contract terms for this lease contract. From then, the lease payments will amount to 1,000 Rand per month for the remainder of the 3-year period. And then there is an extended 2-year period will amount of 1,000 Rand 5 per month. So we've got a 5-year contract, and now according to the standard, we will bring all the payments together and divide it by 5 years, because we need to recognize the actual lease expense divided by the years. That is the straight line method, and I will show you the calculation now. Now, colleagues, also included in the monthly lease payment is a maintenance cost equal to 10% of the monthly payment. The maintenance cost is a non-lease component of which we should keep separate and should not be included as part of the lease payments, but should be treated as an expense. Can you see we are applying the theoretical aspects to this question? And here with the straight line method for the low value assets. Colleagues, the monthly lease payments for the year will be calculated as follows. We've got the initial payment of 2,000 Rand. Okay. We then got for 6 months, we need to pay 900 Rand. That's for 6 months. Then for the remainder of the 3-year contract, 30 months, it's 1,000 Rand times 30 gives you 30,000 Rand. Okay. Payment for the extension period. Remember, there's an additional 2-year period. We will pay 1,500 Rand. That's times 24. It's 36,000 Rand. Okay. The exclusion of any non-lease components. Can you see that this 73,000 Rand, okay, is of low value? It's less than the underlying asset value of the printing machine, which is far less than $5,000. Therefore, the recognition exemption can apply here. Okay. So if we were to sketch you a scenario that this accountant has applied the low value asset recognition exemption, okay, but this amount equates to that like 360,000 Rand, you must disagree with the accountant. You cannot then state that this is a low value recognition exemption. Then they should have recognized the right of use asset. This is how you will apply that $5,000 recognition low value asset exemption. Colleagues, now we also need to exclude the non-lease components, the maintenance cost. So after you equate the total value of the lease contract, you take off the 10% maintenance cost, 7,340. That is the maintenance cost that will be expensed over the period. Okay, so this is the contract lease term. But remember, this is over 5 years. So we need to do it per straight line. How do we do it? 66,000 divided by 5 is the 5 years. That is the lease expense per year. But we cannot do it for the current year because this was only available to us for 8 months. Remember, the lease term states that this is when the lessor makes the asset available for use. Okay? This machine was given to you at 1st of June 2023. This is when the asset was made available. So for 1st July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February is 8 months. You've only had this printing machine to use for 8 months. You haven't had it the full year. The lease was only available for you for 8 months. Therefore, you will debit lease expense of 8,808 Rand. That's the straight lining of the method. But how much did you pay? What was the actual lease payments for the year? Okay, you paid 10,400 Rand. Okay, that was the cash flow. That was the cash flow for the year. Okay, so you paid, the cash flow physically was 10,000. Okay, you should have only paid 8,808. So there's a prepayment of 1,592 Rand. Okay, and of that 10,400, you need to split the maintenance cost with 10%, and that's the maintenance cost that's expensed. So what is the journal entry? Your debit, your lease expense, 8,808. Okay, you debit the prepayment, that's an asset, 1,592. You debit the maintenance cost, 1040, and then you credit your bank the cash flow expense of 10,400. That's the bank payment. That's the cash flow payment. So the difference between your 808 and 104 is 1592 will be recognized as a prepaid lease payment. And the maintenance expense of 17040 must be recognized for the current financial year. Colleagues, I cannot spend too much time on this. This is already uploaded on the site. You can go through this again. I just want to quickly come back to our slides, okay, where I gave you a summary of how we deal with the prepayment, okay. So colleagues, for short-term leases, the recognition of lease payments is the lessee will recognize the lease payments associated with the lease, okay, as an expense on a straight line basis over the lease term and or on another systematic basis if it's more representative. So all I'm saying here is that once you've calculated the lease expense, okay, and you divided it by the years or the months, if the actual payment is greater than the equalized payments, there's a prepayment. Okay, and the opposite is also true. If you paid less, the actual payment is less than the equalized payment, there's an accrual. Then your journal entries will swap. Journals and disclosure requirements for all leases are very, very important. You can always expect journal entries. Colleagues, I cannot go through the Nkobu question. This is really also an examination question for low value assets. This is also loaded on the site. This is for self-study. Okay, you can go, the solution and the scenario is there with journals. Okay, I gave you the journals on this as well. It's an excellent question dealing with all the aspects that I've just shown you on the SONA question. Now, colleagues, I need to just tell you that it's imperative to know the theory as you've shown on this example. Okay, all examples are important in your book. Okay, you need to perform all the necessary calculations, be able to calculate the straight lining method and do the journals, and your disclosure requirements are also given to you in the example as per Nkobu. Colleagues, I need to take a 5-minute break. And I will come to questions at the end of the session. Let's quickly take a 5-minute break for part 1, and then we will come back. Let me see what is the time now. I'm going to pause the recording now for low value assets. Okay. And then let me stop the recording for now. I'm not going to end the event. Recording and stop recording. Okay. And then, colleagues,